OCO Freethinkers.
I make you think, yeah. I make you think, I make you think. So I want to show y'all something, right? So the first thing I want to do, have y'all heard about deed theft? This has been happening for a very long time. And these Jews that y'all, you know, they leaving Argentina and Israel and coming over here. Do y'all know they taking y'all property? Y'all heard of it, right? Okay, now I'm gonna get into it tonight because this is some disturbing news that is happening like consistently. And it's been happening for years, ever since the 1800s to be exact. I mean, we could go further back, 1700s, you know, land grabbing, but I want y'all to see how this is done. And I'm also gonna give ways for you to protect yourself from this because it's really affecting our people the most. I'm gonna go over there. All right, here we go.
Deed theft, where homeowners are essentially tricked out of their properties, has been a pervasive problem for a few years now. And now this group is rallying outside the governor's office, demanding that she do something about it.
My father and I worked really hard. We scraped and we saved and we purchased our home legally and legitimately.
Rachel Cyprian was shaking mad as she spoke with us outside the governor's office about the devastating impact of her 15-year fight to reclaim ownership of her Brooklyn home following deed theft.
Stop. 15-year fight. I have to help my people. Y'all gotta know it should not have took that long. You said you in Houston and you know 3 people that this happened to. I'm gonna get into that. Watch, I'm gonna get into that. This is a problem though, y'all. I'm just pointing it out. Then we're gonna talk about this. Then I'm gonna give you a solution. And I mean solution. You better do it. Especially if your folk got a house and you heard her say that she's been for, they said that she has been fighting for 15 years. One more time.
We saved and we purchased our home legally and legitimately.
Rachel Cyprian was shaking mad as she spoke with us outside the governor's office about the devastating impact of her 15-year fight to reclaim ownership of her Brooklyn home following deed theft.
It leads to homelessness. It leads to depression. It leads to all sorts of failures. Here we are, Black people, in this country now for over 400 years, and we're constantly starting from...
We was here longer than that, sister.
Theft is when a property's title is transferred away from the rightful owner, generally due to deceptive or predatory tactics. Frequently, the targets are seniors and communities of color.
What do we want?
When
do we want it?
Now, Brooklyn City Councilman Chio Say is pressing the governor to put a moratorium on evictions where there's a deed theft case pending or being investigated.
We are pleading to the governor, to the head of the state, to do right.
So just the delay to evictions.
And to do your
Keep in mind, these people are frauding our people out of their homes. It's resulting into them being evicted out of their homes. Are y'all paying attention? This is a very serious matter. Deed theft is the word. Deed theft. This is it. So it's a form of like grand larceny where the property titles are illegally transferred through forgery or fraud by way of the titles or the deeds. And like you said, usually the victims are seniors, but it's mainly communities of people of color. Anybody that's in a rapidly gentrifying neighborhood. Deed theft has been around since the 1800s. If you ask me, I would say 1700s, but we're going to say 1800s because I understand they're going to say the 1800s because of the newspapers. The newspapers used to describe deed theft as the people that were organizing the deed theft. They called them deed theft rackets, and especially in New York. Now, if you recall, when I went over the Harlem Renaissance, I mentioned this before as far as the Harlem area. And then remember how my wife broke down the term Harlem? Go back on the channel so you can understand that this was all their plan to take the land. And it's been happening more than just once. Like a lot of people are out there saying that this happened a long time ago, and I agree with them, but it happened on more than one occasion. 1800s, 1900s, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. It kept happening every 10 years. But it was happening in different states. Let me say it that way. Sometimes it was simultaneously, but in most cases, it was happening like, I would say on a consistent basis, but back to back, not at the same time. It was unbearable for certain folks. But they called that, remember when I went over this in my previous videos, they called that motive gentrification, right? Before gentrification, it was called urban removal. Y'all remember when I went over this? And then the new neighborhoods that they put our people in was called urban renewal. So urban removal, urban renewal, project housing, gentrification. In between that time, it was redlining. But the redlining came in at 1900. So deed theft came before that. So now y'all need to, okay, good. Okay. So our grandparents know about this. Our great-grandparents know about this. You see how deep this get? And this is an ongoing problem that has to cease. And the only way that's going to happen is if me and other people try our best to educate our people as to what we can do. But a lot of this information has been kept away because there are people that look like you and I who are being paid to gatekeep this information away from our people. So they won't know what to do to protect themselves. So our people think they're just, they have no choice. Oh, we got to go through the courts and blah, blah, blah. And that's what the problem is. As soon as you walk into the court is not working in your favor. Listen, okay? This is how serious this is.
Generally due to deceptive or predatory tactics. Frequently, the targets are seniors and communities of color.
The reason why I said the courts are not working in your favor is because these people are going to court to make this work in their favor. Forgery is done in court. The fraud is done in court. Listen to what I'm saying. It's not them going to a printing shop and getting it done, or not that only, should I say. Going to a Kinko's or FedEx, whatever it's called now, I forgot, and just printing out the paperwork. It's not just that. No, they getting signatures. Okay, we got to talk about this.
When do we want it?
Now, Brooklyn City Councilman Chio Say is pressing the governor to put a moratorium on evictions where there's a deed theft case pending or being investigated.
We are pleading to the governor, to the head of the state, to do right by all of us, to do right by Black New Yorkers, and to do your job.
During the moratorium, Chio Say and other elected leaders are demanding legislative fixes, like more support for homeowners in eviction court, special investigative units inside district attorneys' offices, a public database of shell companies associated with deed theft, and more. In response, a spokeswoman...
Stop. Let me hear that again. Let me hear what they plan to do.
It's inside district attorneys' offices, a public database of shell companies associated with deed theft, and more. In response, a spokeswoman Say and other elected leaders are demanding legislative fixes, like
like
more support for homeowners in eviction court.
More support for homeowners in eviction court. That's not helping us.
Special investigative units inside district attorneys' offices.
Special investigative units inside of district attorneys' offices. That's not helping us.
A public database of shell companies associated with deed theft, and
that'll probably help us to give us more names of these companies. But at the same time, if we don't have the court's backing, then what can we do? Watch, I'm gonna tell you what we could do. Hold on.
In response, a spokeswoman for the governor's office did not mention an immediate moratorium, but said the governor has taken a number of steps to push back against deed theft. Quote, no New Yorker should be cheated out of the opportunity to keep their home, which is why Governor Hochul has proposed $40 million in her state budget for the Homeowner Protection Program, and why she has led the way in enacting strong protections to empower homeowners and crack down on illegal deed theft.
Now, what I gathered from her, what her actions were, they finally made this a felony in New York. Listen to that. You mean to tell me this wasn't even against the law? Grand larceny is not? Wait a minute, you finally made this lawful? Illegal? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, they just did that, July 2024. And guess what? There's a statute of limitations. The prosecution can only begin within 5 years of the theft or 2 years after discovery. If the theft happened within 5 years or 2 years after it was discovered. Keep in mind, didn't that lady say right in the beginning that she was fighting this for 15 years? Listen, And that's just on the New York side. And that's with their attorney general. That's what she did. And it says the attorney general now has concurrent jurisdiction with the local district attorneys to investigate and prosecute these crimes directly. Quote, the New York attorney general now has concurrent jurisdiction with local district attorneys to investigate and prosecute these crimes directly. That sounds good, but has she done anything? No, let me tell you why. Because consistent complaints have been increasing between 2023 and 2025. In fact, they have a percentage, and it increased by 240%. She didn't do a goddamn thing. You know why? It's her own kind that's doing it. And what I mean by that is a particular so-called Jewish person. We're gonna get into that.
But advocates say they will press on for more reform and that immediate moratorium.
Moratorium now! Moratorium now!
Governor Hochul, it is now at your door.
Yes. Right.
What are you going to do to keep black families in their home? That's it. That's all I want to hear about.
Between 2014 and 2023, there have been roughly 3,500 complaints of deed theft in New York City alone. So we will continue following these proposals and continue to follow up with the governor's office and councilman's office as this moves forward. In Midtown, Henry Rossoff, Pix 11 News.
Now, he ended at 2023, and I told you from 2023 to 2025, it increased by 240%. Wait, let this sink in. Let that sink in.
Black homeowners in Brooklyn are fighting what they call ongoing deed theft. They say residents are losing their homes and they're not getting justice. Anna Klieger breaks down their message and how city and state prosecutors are responding.
Activists gathered outside the Brooklyn District Attorney's office this afternoon.
People are left homeless, hopeless, and victimized.
Their frustration echoed in their voices as this lawyer says he's had dozens of alleged victims coming to him for help.
You come to the DA's office because you believe it's a crime. And what the DA's office tells you is go to the Supreme Court and file a civil action.
Part of their message is a cycle of what they call selective prosecution. Certain cases and serial scammers get a lot of attention, but other cases don't even make it into the courtroom.
They don't even make it into the courtroom.
And then victimized again by the legal and court system that is supposed to, at the very least, listen to their cries for help.
DA Eric Gonzalez's office issued a statement that reads they have a robust and active deed fraud unit that secured 31 indictments since 2017, all leading to convictions.
Wait a minute. Whoa. 31? When the other guy just said it was 3,500 alone? And he only did 31. That's not even scratching the surface.
And conviction of a man named Sanford Solney, who the courts determined stole the deeds to 11 residential properties. The homes were all returned to their owners. But activists point to cases like these to express their dissatisfaction, saying Mr. Solney had many more victims and there are many more people engaging in this kind of illegal behavior.
They're not going to do anything because of statute of limitations.
The Office of New York Attorney General Letitia.
They're not going to do anything because of statute of limitations. Remember when I read that statute of limitations? Let me go back to that quote. The prosecution can now only begin within 5 years of the theft or 2 years after they discovered it. That's your statute of limitations.
Properties. The homes were all returned to their owners. But activists point to cases like these to express their dissatisfaction, saying Mr. Solney had many more victims and there are many more people engaging in this kind of illegal behavior.
They're not going to do anything because of statute of limitations.
The Office of New York Attorney General Letitia James says she has led an effort to pass stronger anti-deed theft laws that give prosecutors more power to protect victims by establishing deed theft as a crime and amending the statute.
By establishing deed theft as a crime. The word theft is indeed theft, and it wasn't a crime. Are y'all listening? I'm gonna let that sink in. Let that sink in. The word theft is indeed theft, And that theft wasn't a crime. And this has been like this for years. And the reason why is because in our cities, the county clerks often relied on only signatures or notaries. Remember the notaries, don't forget that. So there was no safeguards. And if it was only a few safeguards that was against. That's forgery right there. In other words, as long as America has had recorded land titles, there have been people stealing land through that type of fraud. So they went from forging paper deeds in the 1800s and by the 1900s, I'm gonna say like the mid 1900s. No, I would say like in 1912, 1920s. That's when they started the digital filings. Then identity theft became a thing. What you think April Fools was all about? They were trying to fool our people out of not only their land, but their identity too. So when they forge your paperwork on deeds, you think they ain't gonna know? Come on, people. You trust in the same people that forged documents to take your land, to take your home away from you, right up under you. And they still doing it today. Hold on, I'll come back to this. Hold on, I'm gonna show you an example. Hold on. This is what they doing right now. Let me go to 9x16. This is right now. Look, where we at? Right here.
They're trying to scam my boy out his property. Look, it's the second time he came around talking about he trying to get him.
All right, Danny,
trying to scam.
I came to do inspection of the house.
Ain't no inspection. You don't own the house. Get out of here.
Daniel,
you don't own nothing.
You know this is a court order.
Get court orders.
With a Louis Vuitton belt.
No, get out of here. Fake ass court. Look at this nigga trying to scam.
Ho. Come on, y'all, hit the like button. Look, we about to get into it because you not. Who's doing that, Dane? I'm showing you. I'm showing you. Ain't but one group of people doing it. Let's be real. Let's be real. Ain't you tired of this same old, same old? And look, and this is for my people right here. Right here, this message right here is for my people. Ain't you tired of this shit right here? And this is across the country. It's happened in North Carolina. It's happening in Texas. It's happening in Tennessee, Massachusetts, Arizona, Michigan, Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina, Kentucky, and California. Just in 2025 alone. Ooh, listen. In 2025 alone, a national survey, and I pulled this up. It was a 2025 national survey of real estate professionals, and they found awareness of deed theft or title fraud in markets across 43 states plus Washington, D.C. I personally know that they were doing that in D.C. because I know somebody that got land in D.C. for 1 penny. I don't know them personally like I'm on their side, but I'm aware of how he got that. White guy too, Jew, by the way. Got that landmass for a penny, and I brought it up when it happened and nobody said nothing. But see, I'm not the political type. I'm thinking about it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm thinking about it because if I was mayor in DC, it will be a whole rack of shit shutting. I will shut that shit down. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the hood's gonna have my back. I ain't even gonna need your security because everybody know what the fuck happened. I will make sure that let me say professionally now. I will make sure that the real DC will look like Chocolate City all over again, and which it should be. In 2025, this was last year, y'all. We just in April. We in April now of 2026. Last year, this was happening in 43 states. It says some of the states most frequently mentioned in news reports and law enforcement warnings are New York, Texas, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Maryland, and Michigan. And that was by the FBI. Let me start putting stuff on screen again so people won't think I'm playing. What'd that say right there? April 1st. What'd that say right there? FBI Boston warns quick claim deed fraud is on the rise. 2025. April 1st, 2025. The same old shit that been happening for years, and it be the same old suspects that be getting away with it for years. How come that wasn't against the law? So how many other states is this still lawful? Remember when I told y'all that they never showed y'all, I'm about to make this deep. Remember when I told y'all that they never showed y'all the slave codes? And the reason why they couldn't show you the slave codes that they put out there in every state? I should start doing giveaways or something, some type of prize or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause if somebody can answer that question accurately based off of what I put out there, I should give them something. Because that's major. That's major. I went over it numerous times in the past in documentary format, especially. I'm about to start doing that because that would really excite me to let me know that I know people have been paying attention because I do hear people regurgitating my stuff on a daily basis. And I'm actually proud of that because that means that more people are learning and I didn't waste my time this whole 10 years I've been on YouTube. People have been paying attention to the history that has not been told to our people for a reason. Because they know it's going to put us in position to win once we recognize what the problem is and we solve that problem by not allowing that problem to happen again. You know, when they say history repeats itself, the slave trade codes, the slave codes of every state. Remember when I told you to go find one and I gave you the one that you could find, right? And that was it. And the reason why is because the slave codes wasn't about putting you in slavery by chains and shackles. It was about taking everything from you. That's why. Notice how every state, Alabama, Arizona, California, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, Washington, and West Virginia. This was all last year. New York was the only one that made this illegal the year before. And then they said plus DC. So think about that. How long has this been going on? And I told you since the 1800s. Does it sound like any politician that claimed that they need the black person's vote mention anything like this as to the reason why things like project housing happen, redlining happen? The Justice Department doesn't. It's like they work against us because they do. They're assigned to work against us. This is their duty. That government is for foreigners only. The civil rights was for foreigners only. They did not write. They made pretend like they wrote it in the Indians' favor. And they handed it to foreigners. This is a nationwide problem. And they especially attacking the people that's in the low DC. In the low income areas, DC, look, remember how we gonna be looking at our projects at DC, for example. The reason why I'm using DC so much is because I'm from there. And I want folks in DC and Maryland that know about the areas like, for example, the hoods that they got rid of, okay? That they tore down and put up beautiful homes. And you think that's actually good? That's gentrification, and that was done on purpose. And keep in mind, it was beautiful homes before Berry Farms was there. As an example, okay? And then they put Berry Farms there. The people they consistently move our people further and further away from the inner cities. Whatever they consider an inner city, then they push our people out. That's what they've been doing. Moving our people. Immigration with an E. Moving our people. We wasn't being shipped to Africa. We were being shipped in places in America on purpose by way of gentrification to make more room for incoming foreigners. That's been going on for years, and I've been teaching about it for a while. You gotta understand that this is not a game. Everything I've been teaching about is factual. Nobody can say I'm talking out the side of my neck when it comes to this topic or any topic that I'll talk about, because I know my shit. I know what I'm talking about, and I'm pulling this shit up. Look. Tennessee woman pleads guilty to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. Look how identity theft is going right with it. Wire fraud. Scheme involving fraudulent deed transfers and property sales. This part wasn't against the law. This part was identity theft, wire fraud, scheme involving. That's not what she got arrested for. The fraudulent scheme involved at least 19 properties worth over $1.4 million. Elisa England, 32, of Chattanooga, Tennessee,
guys are trying to scam my boy out his property. Look, it's the second time he came around telling somebody he's trying to get him.
All right, Daniel.
Trying to scam.
I came to do inspection of the house.
Ain't no inspection. You don't own the house. Get out of here. You don't own nothing.
You know this is the court order.
Like court order. No, get out of here. Fake ass court order. Look at this nigga trying to scam. This guy been here for years. Get out of here, bro. Get out of here. He's born here. Get out of here. When they call the cops, you came. The cops came. They did nothing. Get out of here. Yo, oh yeah. I don't know if you know this guy trying to scam. We not playing over here. We not playing. We don't give a fuck about that little fake ass hat. We knock his fucking hat off. We not playing. You heard me? We not playing.
I understand.
I'm trying to play. I'm trying to get him the fuck out of here before he gets himself hurt out here. You heard? We don't give a fuck about that hat. You heard? We don't give a fuck about that hat. We'll knock his fucking head off.
Not only do y'all not do this enough, our people. Look, hear me out. I'm gonna get on y'all about that. We get on each other a lot. We'll cuss each other out in a second, in a heartbeat. But we need to be not only leaning on these motherfuckers right here that's actually doing some things to our people, but we need to be handling it properly. It needs to be a structure. And it needs to be known how you could get this stuff fixed. And I put that inside of my book. Y'all gonna be mad because I'm promoting my book. But not only am I promoting my book, I know my book is the truth and it stops this bullshit from happening. Because that person's, the reason why that person is still there, the reason why this person, him, this Jew, so-called Zionist, the reason why he's still there is because the property is not truly protected simply because the person's family owns it. Because ownership itself is only the beginning. What's the protection part? See how everybody missed that? We say ownership, ownership, but what about protection? The real protection comes from structure, documentation, continuity, and making certain that the property exists inside of in legal system that we create that's harder to manipulate or is harder to confuse or harder to steal. And that's why I spent so much time creating that book, because I emphasize a lot inside of that book about trust and trust funding, deed transfers, successor trustees, beneficiary instructions. I even go over family communication. I literally go over what you need to do to make this happen for you and your family, so this won't ever pop up. And I in the book, you're gonna hear me say, turning ownership into continuity, because I explained that one of the greatest weaknesses many of our families have is the fact that the home may still be titled in that person's name, you know, but it's only titled in that person's name, meaning like that aging parent or that grandparent, you know, or it could be somebody that deceased, you know, a relative long after, you know what I mean? And that leaves the people vulnerable, you know. Okay, basically because the property becomes exposed. Because for example, if the owner dies without the title being properly transferred, and if the heirs don't understand who has authority, or if the family has no organized records, like they ain't got this stuff backed up, you know, then confusion going to enter the picture. You already know that. It's going to be confusion often because the deed thieves, that's how they operate. That's why he there with paperwork. He there with paperwork. Listen to him.
Call the cops. The cops came. They did nothing. Get out of here. Yo, oh yeah.
Court order. You heard him? Court order. Court order. He says it. And I address this problem inside of my book called The Quiet Blueprint of Wealth, because I teach families to place the property into properly drafted revocable trust, as an example. You ain't even got to get irrevocable right now because you can't change it when you go that route. Get revocable. Because while the owner is still alive and capable, for example, if it's you know, because when the home is owned by a trust instead of by one isolated individual, then there is an entity different from your normal. Like there's a different layer of protection. Like, for example, he's not coming there on behalf of him. Guaranteed his paperwork is stating some type of business. And it was a transfer of ownership from business to business, okay? I'll talk about more about that part in the book because, okay, there is a totally different type of protection when there's a business. That's a different layer of protection. The trust creates a clear legal owner, and it establishes who has authority, and it names the successor trustees. And I tell you in there how to do that. So it reduces that uncertainty. Even if there is an illness or something like that inside of the family, somebody has some type of incapacity, or somebody has an abrupt death, or however it goes, it protects from all of that because the property is already inside the trust before anything happens. So there's less opportunity for a criminal to exploit these delays. Or right here, in this case, it's going to be probate confusion because he went to court. Probate is basically getting the court involved. Or any disagreements among the heirs, like amongst the trustees that's inside of the family, your brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, whoever getting inside of the trust. So that's why I kept repeating and stressing the issue that creating a trust is not enough if the property is never actually transferred into it. There we go. The trust is not enough if the property is never actually transferred into it. You have to move the property into the trust, because that's one of the most common mistakes that our people make as far as our families. They believe that signing a trust document alone protects the home. And that's why in my book I was saying I was talking about, and I was explaining to you guys, the paper trust problem. Like you can't just trust paperwork, like in his sense, like in the same guy's sense, right? This is why it was chapters that I have inside of that book, and it's still in there. I say have. There's chapters in that book going over trust funding and deeding the home into the trust. And those are very important because they explain that the deed itself must be updated and recorded properly. You like turning a trust from an idea to an active legal shield at that point. Like it's just not, oh yeah, this is on record and that's it. It gotta be more to that. Like, so that's why when you go into my chapter on placing the home into the home deed into the trust, it's important in relation to deed theft, because it teaches how families could create a record or a recorded chain of ownership that is organized and current, and it's gonna be difficult to challenge. Meaning like y'all got the record of who's in ownership of the home, like passing them back and forth. This is like you creating generational wealth at this point. Can't nobody touch it. This is all you and your family. Keep in mind, it's not just about you, it's about you and your family. So when the deed is created and transferred to the trust, there's less ambiguity about who owns the property, less risk that, you know, a relative, for example, can be manipulated into signing a home away, because that's what happened in the 40s a little bit, but especially in the 50s and the 60s. A lot of our people were manipulated into signing the home away. So it's going to give a less chance of that happening, and a less chance that someone could quietly insert some fraudulent deed. They come, oh no, we doing it. I'm doing a little scale. I'm looking at it. Nah, you looking at the property, you know, and especially when the family is confused. When if anything is happening like at a time where the family is confused, like whatever they're going through. At that time, if it was a family loss and these people getting all the words and looking at the property that they want, being all nosy and shit, you all of a sudden wondering why you seeing. But see, it's so hard for people in New York to catch on, because certain people in New York not catching on to who did gentrification in the first place. Like who moved you into these areas in the first place. Okay, and now they want to take it back over because it's cheaper on them, okay? Because they ain't got to pay a dime. They come grab that, start their families over, then boop, all of a sudden they become a Zionist Jewish community full of them. You know what I'm saying? After a while, but that's what they've been doing. They've been doing this for a minute, and they've been getting away with it in every state. In every state. Hold on, let me finish this off.
The cops came, they did nothing. Get out of here. Yo,
I think I did finish this.
No, this guy trying to scam. We not playing over here. We not playing. We don't give a fuck about that little fake ass hat. We knock his fucking hat off. We not playing. You heard me?
Yeah, we finished this.
I'm trying.
Because it gotta be, again, it has to be more than just talk. You know, it gotta be action. It has to be more than just talk. You have to protect your family. There is added protections to this. There is added protections, but you got to know, you know, what to do. And you got to be focused on that. So anybody that has my book right now, I want to play this for those that don't, okay? My new book is here, The Quiet Blueprint of Wealth. It's a masterclass that teaches exactly what the title implies. Grab your physical copies on Amazon Prime or anywhere else books are sold, or download the ebook version exclusively at DaneMakeYouThink.com. It's out right now. Again, the ebook version, if you want it on your phone, it's on my website exclusively. You got to go get that. If you want the physical copies, you could go anywhere books are sold or Amazon to get that book. I'm telling you what the gatekeepers were gatekeeping. And I also help prevent identity and deed theft by encouraging y'all to maintain what I call inside the book, it's called a legacy binder. So it's a complete collection of everything you need: the trust, the deeds, the account information, contact information, insurance records, tax records. And I gave you instructions for what happens if the owner becomes impaired or whatever, or incapacitated or dies. I told you all of this. This really matters to prevent this stuff from happening. Deed thieves really succeed because no one in the family knows where the record's at. That's where the vulnerability comes in. And the lawyer depending on that. And you don't know who the lawyer is. You don't know where the deed exists. You don't know what's supposed to happen in your favor. So that's why I created that legacy binder in the book as well. Y'all gonna see that as well. I make sure that you don't have to come up out of that book for nothing, man. I tell you how to get this done. I'm not playing. It's not just about selling a book. This is a real thing. Not just this is an ad or campaign for the book. No, I'm telling you what to do. I'm giving you the material. That's a masterclass. If you really want to get it done, get it done. I'm not holding shit back. I did the research. Anybody that got the book will tell you. And I put my reputation on the line on it. I'm not playing. Everything I said does happen for you, does happen for you. And you have to do it properly. And everybody thinking the solution of going to, as far as whatever they talking about, signing your life away to this government, for example. Let me just summarize it like that. I saw people out there saying, no, this is the remedy. You got to change your status. You got to blah, 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 blah. No. This is a fraudulent government. And you know that to be true because he got paperwork in his hand from the courts. That is not who you put your trust in. See? Notice how we going back to that term trust. That is not who you put your trust in. You put your trust in your family. That's how these fools do it. And the reason why I'm calling them fools is because I don't like them for doing that, but they taking advantage of vulnerable people that don't have no idea of what's going on. And that needs to go.
OCO Freethinkers.
I make you think, yeah. I make you think, I make you think, yeah. I make you think, yeah. I made you think, yeah. I made you think, I make you think, yeah. I make you
He's
think.
here to make you think.
I make you think, yeah. I make you think, I make you think, yeah. I make you think, yeah. I made you think, yeah. I made you think, I make you think.
It's Dane Calloway.